Okay, we're going to bring this public forum to order. I'm Rich Johnson, the chair. This is our fifth and last public forum in the Chesapeake building on the 23rd. I'm going to first do a roll call to my left.
Matt Bergen.
Pat Richardson.
To my right.
Paul Thompson.
Lance Johnson.
Okay, so I'm going to do my normal stuff. I'm going to talk about the current map. The other things I got to tell people, if you got a cell phone, turn it off or put it in whatever so we don't hear it. So before I go into the maps, I want to make people understand how we do things so they understand what we're doing. The way we run these meetings, it's a procedure known Robert's Rule of Order. This is how you run all meetings in St. Mary's County. And if you don't believe me, I got some placards. And let's see, the first one, and you can look it up on the board docs. Can you get this on the, I don't know, can you see all that? It's called Bylaws of the 457B Governance Committee of St. Mary's County. Basically, all boards and committee or commissions run their meetings for a certain way. And if you don't believe me, this is the last page. There's a lot of verbiage in between on how you run a meeting. So this is the Article 3 part authority. And what it says is, for all St. Mary's County boards and commissions, basically you have the current edition of Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, including provision of 49 entitled Procedure and Small Boards Shall Govern. So this board and every other board runs by this, even the county commissioners. And if you don't believe me, Randy Guy signed it, and so did my friend over there, David A. Weisskopf. It was signed on June 14th, 2019. So this covers all boards and commissions in St. Mary's County. And if you don't believe in me, there's other things you can go on the board docs and look up. So just so you, and again, we're transparent. So you can go on board docs. It's where you get a lot of our documentation, understand how we do things. Like, for example, the Planning Commission has the same verbiage of this Article 3 authority. They're all there. It's cut and paste. They all do the same thing. The bylaws of St. Mary's County Commission for Women do the same thing. So those are two commissions, as an example, that use this. And as for boards, we are a board. Bylaws of Local Management Board of Aging uses the same thing. It's all cut and paste. So I suggest, if people have questions on this, this is the authority, and it's been signed by the County Commissioner, Randy Guy, the president, and David Weisskopf, who's actually in the audience. So I'm going to pass out to the members this document. You're out of order, please. You can look at that. So here's yours. Your copy. Did I give you a copy?
No,
Here you go.
thank you.
I'm doing this because people are asking, even I was asking, how do we run these meetings? Well, it's Robert's Rule of Orders. So that being said, I'm going to talk about the map. Current map and the proposed map that we've been using on all our meetings. So the first thing we did was to use current census data and apply it to the new map and see if it actually met that 10% requirement that the law is telling us to use. It did not meet that, and actually the percentages of the current map that we have varied for population. That's the key. We're only going by population for this balance. And it's a 10% requirement or less. Actually, we did less. So the current map varies from 7.07% to 31.8%. Okay? So it was above the 10% requirement. So we had to all generate new maps. We had a great IT. And if I could give you a raise, I could, but I can't, so I don't have that. But Eric, he's done a great job with IT and the maps. So we all did our maps. And maybe a lot of people didn't know that we were about to do a meeting to show our maps. And Eric, like I said, I'm glad I have him on my team. He found an anomaly with the border of District 4 and District 1. So our original maps, there was an imbalance of District 4 of about maybe 2,700 people, so we had to try to balance it out. But when Eric found that anomaly, that the borders were not right between District 4 and 1, he had to get with the Board of Elections, and I guess it was resolved. And once it was resolved, the actual population of District 4 was now 7,641 in balance above the average. So because of that, all our maps were messed up. We had to redo them. I had to get another meeting, and we had to do new maps. So the data you're seeing here is that corrected data. And actually, that error was for like 11 years. It wasn't caught. Luckily, this board used the census data, and we had very good IT, caught it. And so just so you people know, this is the best data we have. So for the current map I just said, the population was 7.07 to 31.8%. So we had to fix that. So we all did our maps, redid them again, and then we had a vote. We all had our maps, and we voted. And as you know, we voted for maps, or Matt's map, I can't say that 3 times fast, which is also the proposed map that the board as a whole is presenting to the people. Now, Matt's, or the proposed, let's go to the proposed map. He had very good numbers for population. Population varied percent-wise from 0.34% to 1.01%. Now, all this data is online, so I have other percentages if you want to look at, we had also voters greater than 18, and I always say that doesn't help me because it doesn't tell me about people below 18 that are eligible to vote. So we have that data, but it didn't help me. But they also had registered voters, and that was accurate. But we did find anomalies in the data, because sometimes when I was doing maps, I found that there was more voters being reported than there was population. And at one time, there was like, I think, Eric, what was it, like over 200 that one time we found an anomaly that was in Willow's area. And to me, that was a flag. So he actually ran that data, and it was actually a mistake because there was an adjacent slice of land which didn't get that data. So it was a flag, but it was explainable. So it actually made me more confident with the data and also what you could do. So at first I thought I might have to write code, but you're doing the code, so I like that. So we don't have to do it. And you, like I said, if I could give you a raise, I would. So those are the numbers between the 2 maps, the original map and the proposed map. Does anyone have a question? Because one of the questions, what does this 10% mean? Does everyone understand what that requirement is? What we're trying to do. It's adjacent property or districts, county commissioner districts, they have to maintain 10%. Of course, we did better, but that was the rule. So it's only adjacent properties. Now, there was another question that came up, and again, I want to be as clear as possible of what we did and why we did it. There was a Caitlin Freyer. It was the second meeting that was held here on the 10th, and she had a legit question. She said, District 4, once we fixed that border problem that was around for like 11 years, had 7,641 people above the average, and the average is 28,490. So she says, well, how moving that out of District 4 impacted 28,266 people? I mean, I look at data all the time on base, and you see anomalies, and just like that anomaly I just talked about with Eric, like, what was that? And it was explainable. So she had a legit question, why is it such a big number? So, and actually Eric ran all our map numbers to give us how many people we actually impact. So for my personal, when I was doing the map, the first thing I did was attack District 4 because it was above the average. So, and again, since it was only adjoining at the time, District 1 and 2, I had to move the population over into those 2 districts. And once you do that, now you have, since District 3 is way up north and unconnected to District 4, so now 3, 2, and 1 are out of balance, and even out of balance with the corrected District 4. So, long story short, it would take a couple of different iterations to do the map, and And for example, when I had, I guess my last iteration, District 3 was short about 1,000 or so, and there was 1,000 over in District 1. But in order to get that population moved, I had to go through District 2, and by doing that, you hit people down here, and then you got to offset it up here, so that's why you get this accumulated impact of people. So I think that's all I have. Is there any questions for me at this point? Okay, Matt, you got it.
So as always, just wanted to thank everybody for coming out. Some familiar faces. Thank you for coming out previously, especially folks that have shared input thus far. I think Rich sort of alluded to the objective numbers that we use, but what ultimately is probably the most important step in this process are these public hearings. We don't have access to people's concerns and criticisms on the front end, so we truly value your input. So thank you for those that have spoken thus far. Thank you for those that are going to speak tonight. We still have room and we've got time. So if you want to speak, we value the input of the community. It's the most important step in this process. If you have the opportunity, if you want to look back, we follow St. Mary's and Maryland Open Meetings Act. You can go on YouTube and you can YouTube every meeting we've had thus far, every public meeting as well. And then also, if you go on St. Mary's MD and then click on board docs, you can look at any and all documentation that's being referenced as well. So again, thank you everybody that's come out, and if you have not signed up to speak, please feel free to do so. We genuinely value the public input.
All right. Welcome to the St. Mary's County Redistricting Board public hearing to consider public comments on proposed boundaries of districts for the election of county commissioners in the 2022 general election and thereafter. For those unable to join us in person but who wish to give comments to the board, please call 301-475-4200, extension 1234. And again, that is 301-475-4200, extension 1234, and provide your name and address for the record. You will then be given an opportunity to speak to the board through telephone conference. Those wishing to speak in person should have signed up on the forms located in the lobby of the Chesapeake Building at 41770 Baldridge Street in Leonardtown. All speakers tonight will be allotted 3 minutes to address the redistricting board and 5 minutes if you are representing a group or organization. At the end of each speaker's allotted time, we will let you know your time has lapsed. We ask each speaker tonight to respect the time limits in order to give all those who wish to participate an opportunity to be heard. This public hearing is being televised live on St. Mary's County Government TV, Channel 95, and the county's YouTube channel. If you should miss any part of this hearing, it will re-air on Channel 95 on Saturday, November 27th, and will remain available for on-demand viewing on the St. Mary's County Government YouTube channel. Please note that the public comment period will remain open for 7 days until November 30th, 2021. Should any member of the public wish to send an email to csmc@stmarysmd.com or by U.S. mail to P.O. Box 653, Leonardtown, Maryland 20650. Citizens were provided the opportunity to address the board via video submissions, but because we did not receive any video submissions for the public hearing, we will proceed directly to those who have signed up to speak in person tonight. Mr. Chairman, at this time we have 12 individuals signed up to speak in person tonight. Our first speaker will be Lawrence Ludwig. Mr. Ludwig, please come to the microphone in the center of the room and state your name and address for the record before giving your remarks.
Hello, members of the board, and audience members also. My name is Lawrence Ludwig. I live at 23356 Marview Court in Leonardtown. Folks, this is white America. We've been running this country for 400 years, and right now that position is threatened. We need to take our country back. Immigrants are coming in from everywhere. Mexico, Central America, Africa, Afghanistan, India, China. The occasional Norwegian will be okay, though. So why are they coming here? Oh, and I will mention that 40 million people in this country speak Spanish in the household. So why are they coming here? Perhaps something to do with opportunity or maybe having a safe place to raise your family. But that's not our problem. So how do we take our country back? Well, we start at the county level. We find the most diverse area we have, and we crack it up right into the smallest pieces that we can. Folks, there are 3,034 counties in this country. They all have redistricting boards doing similar things. You as a board have a unique opportunity to ensure that our commissioners are always white, male, and Christian. The occasional woman would be okay as long as she's white and thinks right, if you know what I mean. So this spurious, inequitable, and unjust map will ensure that white people stay in power, undermine the minority vote, and to hell with our democratic republic. Folks, this statement defines my perception of this map. This is going to be your legacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, if she wishes, will be Ann Gregory.
Thank you.
Our next speaker in that case will be Ren Heisler. Ms. Heisler, if you would please approach the microphone in the center of the room. Please remember to state your name and address before giving your remarks.
I guess Larry's a little taller than I am. I'm Ren Heisler. I live at 48440 Princess Court in Lexington Park. And before I begin, I do want to thank the members of the commission for your service. I know that you've put a lot of hours and time into this, and you're putting more hours into listening to us, so we do thank you for that. Working in local politics, I am well aware of the pressure to maintain or obtain power in this county. It's always there, and I think it's in the nature of living in a purple region. But for tonight and for the consideration of these maps, I think it's really important to take political parties out of it and really just talk about communities. I moved here to St. Mary's County 26 years ago to attend St. Mary's College and have been here ever since. And at that time, Lexington Park and Great Mills only needed a 2-lane 235. And now we have 6 lanes that sometimes get extremely congested. And yet here we are at this meeting, and here you've been for 4 meetings prior to tonight, talking about the communities that have been the backbone of this county long before I moved here 26 years ago. Talking about the neighborhoods that existed long before I moved here 26 years ago. And in fact, talking about the fact that this current proposed map actually divides those communities. Communities that have common interest and that have, for as long as I can remember, and I'm sure long before I've been here, been sort of a unit in our county in terms of needs and concerns. So when I think about this decision about whether or not to redraw the map, I have to step away from politics entirely and think about morality. And I think that that's what I would encourage all of you to do. As a kid, my grandfather was an Army colonel, and my own parents were, my childhood was not perfect, I'll just say it that way. And so I really looked to my grandfather and my grandmother for guidance and for stability. And anytime I'd be making a decision or anytime I'd make a mistake, which kids do and teenagers do, my grandfather would look at me with that colonel eye, and any of you who've served in the military, you know it, it's a look, right? And he would just look at me and he would say, that wasn't the right thing to do, And so my sense of morality is founded in his words and in his language as he explained to us repeatedly throughout our childhood about the right thing to do. And how would I know, Grampy, what the right thing to do is? And he would always say, you'll know. And I would say in this particular situation where we're talking about dividing 6 precincts for the first time that we can find on record, where we're talking about affecting 25% of the county's population, we know that's not the right thing to do. We know it's not the right thing to divide communities that have always been together. So I implore you to please reconsider this map, redraw the map, and do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, if she wishes, will be Marta Kelsey. Mrs. Kelsey, you are waiving your remarks. Our next speaker in that case will be David Kelsey. Mr. Kelsey, if you would approach the microphone in the center of the room, please remember to state your name and address for the record before beginning your remarks.
Yes, my name is David Kelsey. I live on Whiskey Creek Road in Hollywood. And to start this off with, I'm just going to talk real quick about the 4th District. And I'm going to have to be as blunt as I can. I'm sorry, but it's dumb. You got people up there across from Battle Creek all the way down to past the naval base, and you're going to have one person represent that incredibly different bunch of people. And it doesn't make sense. The whole thing, that's just, you got to redo that one. That's just not right. Now, in terms of other comments, I would say you have a pie, and you're going to divide that up according to percentages. And you're going to have to divide it up, I think, into 4 pieces. Now, your job is to divide it up in a way that represents fairness for all people who are going to vote. And that is not always just drawing lines. You have communities of all kinds to fit into this puzzle. And from what I can see, you've had a lot of difficulty in figuring out how to get these communities into the puzzle and to make them not divide the communities into pieces, but keep them all together. And I think that in your major job is to make sure that the government works in the way it was intended. And that means that everybody gets an equal shot at voting and not just going to the ballot box, but getting the power that comes from the ballot box. And that means being able to vote for people who are going to represent your needs as well as everybody else's needs. So I think what I see in this is you need to go back and have a look at how you're going to make sure that the voters don't just vote, but that votes make a difference, that it represents what they need and what they want and what their hopes are. So thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, if she wishes, will be Caitlin Frere. Ms. Frere, you indicated a maybe. If you wish to speak, please approach the microphone in the center of the room. State your name and address before beginning your remarks.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Frere, 44980 Hamptons Boulevard in Leonardtown, Maryland. I just want to say thank you so much for getting back about that question that I had. I appreciate it.
So you'd like that.
I still don't agree with the map. It still is severely disruptive to the communities that were mentioned before, Lexington Park and Great Mills. You're separating an extremely important community. And I challenge most of the people in this room to go down there, sight unseen from the map, and be able to specifically delineate where Great Mills ends and Lexington Park begins, because you really can't tell. They are one and the same. I'm sure it ends somewhere on Great Mills Road, I couldn't tell you. I was born in this county. I'm a Russell. So, anyway, my best friend lives down near Gate 3, right where District 4 begins. Maybe 2 weekends ago, we were driving up to DC to do some shopping. So that means we drove the entirety of the way up 235 to go to DC. On a good day, that takes a significant amount of time still. On a base traffic day, that can take an hour minimum. There is a significant amount of space there. I know, Dr. Richardson, you said that you drove it yourself, and I hope that everyone else on this board who is making these decisions has as well. I'm sure you might have driven it without thinking about it. But when you're driving that, whether or not this scary bill comes to fruition, that the commissioners are so afraid of and that everybody in the community is touting as this crazy, crazy bill, the point is, and the point that the commissioners keep making, is that you're supposed to be able to go to any county commissioner and say, hey, these are my problems. And however, the point of county commissioners being specific in districts is so that they understand the problems that are happening in their districts and are able to take that to the county commissioner board and maybe fix it. Try their best to fix it, hopefully. How is somebody who lives in Hollywood going to truly understand the problems that are in Lexington Park? And even on the reverse end, how does someone living in Lexington Park truly understand the problems being faced in Hollywood? Yes, we all live in the same county. We all have that in common, but there are reasons that there are districts in the first place. Like, we have to divide ourselves up just a little bit so that we can get things done in our specific communities. You all were able to keep Hollywood together, or sorry, not Hollywood, Wildwood together, and that is a monster of a neighborhood. I know because I used to live there. So please just reconsider, and I hope that you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Mary Ludwig. Mrs. Ludwig, if you would please approach the microphone in the center of the room. Remember to state your name and address before beginning your remarks.
Good evening again. I guess y'all are tired of seeing the Ludwigs here, but we appreciate the work you're doing, and we want to support you in every way we can. My name is Mary Ludwig. I live at 23356 Marview Court in Leonardtown. The hearings at this point for us are over, and the verdict is in. Absolutely no one who has attended these hearings has been in favor of the map that has been presented. Options suggested: the following changes were proposed during these redistricting hearings. Number 1, adopt the map drafted by Paul Thompson and approved by Dr. Richardson with minor revisions if needed. Number 2, start from scratch and develop all new district lines that support all communities. Number 3, disband the current redistricting committee and appoint an entirely new board that truly represents the diversity of the county. The final redistricting plans are to be forwarded by the St. Mary's County Commissioners, or to the St. Mary's County Commissioners on 31 December 2021. 60 days after, that plan will be adopted and will reflect the elections for the county commissioners. So here we are. Are you presenting a final map tonight? If not, additional revisions that you may make cannot be adopted within public review. With this autonomous power that has no checks or balances, the redistricting board is given total control and final say-so for a map that will impact more than 100,000 residents for at least 10 years to come. I would like to ask the county attorney to advise us regarding legal options that may exist for filing exceptions to the final map. The gerrymandering, racism, and political biases that are evident in the current map will have to be addressed if they are retained in the final map adopted by the redistricting board. What steps do we need to take to file an exception? In closing, I would like to quote the words of a former Congresswoman named Nina Turner. All of the great social justice advances that we have ever had in this country have come not from people with big titles and not from people at the top, but from everyday people getting together saying, enough is enough. I'm going to change this, and I'm going to get involved, and I am going to be engaged. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Caroline King. Ms. King, if you would please approach the microphone in the center of the room, remember to state your name and address before beginning your remarks.
Sure. Caroline King, 23561 Lily Flora Drive in California. First, I want to say thank you all for serving on this board. Thank you, county staff, for working on this and holding these hearings. I watched the previous hearings and saw how you've heard over and over why this map is troublesome. So I'm not going to talk too much about that, but I do want to give you a little bit of background information. And I know Ren said we should keep politics out of it, but I'm actually going to bring politics back into it for a minute. I've served on various county advisory committees, most recently on the Planning Commission. And last December, I was surprised when I wasn't reappointed. You see, that rarely happens. But I'm a member of the Democratic Central Committee, and I was replaced by a Republican. My story is not unique. In the spring, I applied again to several boards, including this one. However, my application wasn't even considered. It seems being a Democrat is enough to have your application tossed in the trash. So, I and other citizens continued to advocate for a fair and balanced redistricting board. Because of all the boards, this one seems to be the most important for ensuring equal political representation. Although the county commissioners stated they didn't consider party affiliation of the members, the fact is they should have considered it. How can we create a fair map if all parties aren't involved? We asked for 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and 1 independent, similar to Governor Hogan's redistricting commission at the state level. Instead, we got 5 Republicans. We weren't happy, but thought this board could still draw a reasonable map. Well, we got this map. This map that splits up the county's largest minority community, the community that also happens to be the largest Democratic area in the county. The Board of Elections provided you with a lot of data, some of which was never made publicly available on board docs. I requested that data and was provided a few things, but learned that this board also received a CD containing information on the party affiliation of voters. If it wasn't necessary for the commissioners to consider party affiliation when creating this board, why was it necessary for you to consider it when drawing this map? You should know how bad this looks. I tried to create my own map as an alternative proposal, but without having the privilege of the same mapping tools you did, it was incredibly difficult. So all I can do is request that you create a map with compact districts that keeps distinct communities intact. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Lillian Ohanesian.
Can you spell that?
Ohanesian, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Yep, that's me. Hi. Lillian Ohanesian, thank you.
My apologies on that.
That's quite all right. My address is 41510 Marwood Circle. I'm new to St. Mary's County. I'm also very interested in voting rights. So I attended the hearing on Thursday in Lexington Park, very much in the spirit of learning. I have some background information, but I had no preconceived notions when I walked in the door on Thursday. I heard what your goals were. I heard them again tonight, that the goal is to get equal numbers in every district. That makes a lot of sense to me. That makes perfect sense as populations shift over time. And then I heard from the audience in Lexington Park. I heard the important goal to them of preserving their community. That makes total sense to me too. So I walked out the door Thursday night thinking we have two very important goals. Are they contradictory? You know, why can't we do both things at the same time? When I think about government, we have to constantly balance multiple goals, multiple values, serving multiple communities. And it seems to me that a map should be able to do both things at the same time. And I learned that you did have some maps under consideration that did a better job of balancing both goals. I know there's no perfect map. You know, we don't live in a perfect world. We live in the real world. But instead, we have a map that seems to sacrifice one goal at the expense of another. I'm just wondering why. Again, I come to you in the spirit of learning, and I think that the people of St. Mary's County deserve an explanation. This is a democracy. We don't always agree with the decisions our elected officials make, but we deserve to have those decisions on the public record and the thought process behind them. That's what allows us to have an intelligent debate, to understand the reasons. So, you know, again, I heard tonight why the current map meets the goal of, you know, getting equal numbers, but I haven't heard why we can't also preserve the Lexington Park community. Thursday night, I heard a lot of anger. You heard it too. I'll be frank, you were accused of some pretty awful things. I felt for you. I wouldn't want to be accused of those things, especially if they weren't true. And at the same time, I think it's only natural when we're not given answers to jump to those worst conclusions, you know, to assume that maybe there aren't any good answers. So I'm really just asking, in the spirit of democratic government, if not for the sake of your reputations, to please help us understand why we can't come up with a map that can accomplish both goals at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Randy Salm. Mr. Salm, if you would please approach the microphone in the center of the room, state your name and address for the record before beginning your remarks.
My name is Randy Salm, Dr. Randall Salm, 36683 Hollyfield Lane, Chaptico. So I have a couple questions building on what other people have said. My first question is, I'm really curious as to what is the process that you will use to determine whether you accept the existing map or whether you accept some of the recommendations that are being made here today, such as a nonpartisan group to draw a new map that reflects political preferences of your voters in this county. Very specifically, I'm curious as to whether or not you considered race and ethnicity. I teach sociology, I teach political science, political data analysis very specifically, and some of the key indicators for determining voter preferences are race and ethnicity. African Americans, 95% of them vote Democrat. Hispanic for the state as well, and this is state numbers. Hispanic voter preferences for the state are 70% Democrat as well. Age is also a key indicator. Younger people are much more likely to vote Democrat as well. Were any of these demographic characteristics considered when you were drawing your map? If not, it may seem like a colorblind exercise on your part, assuming that everybody's the same. But as other people have made the point, you really are disenfranchising certain populations when you're not allowing them to elect representatives that meet their needs, that represent their interests. So very specifically, again, we've got 5 representatives on this district, redistricting board, all Republican, and we know that especially minority voters are much more likely to vote Democrat. So I urge you to go and look closely at the data and redraw a map that keeps the minority group populations intact in terms of their voting districts. If it's possible to open up a website that shows racial and ethnic data, is that possible to do that right now? I've got 30 seconds left.
We didn't use race or anything in our maps. Nothing.
Can we show racial and ethnic data?
I'm not sure.
So there's I don't know if you got a handout. We do have the current breakdown of the ethnic breakdown of the current and proposed map for each ethnic category for each respective district.
Yes, and what I want to show you is if you go to statisticalatlas.com, search for St. Mary's County, and then go for Race and Ethnicity tab on the right-hand side. Very specifically, you can see racial and ethnic data by district, by tract, and you can see which tracts, some of these tracts have over 50% minority population. So you're disenfranchising a number of tracts, Lexington Park, Great Mills area, by not considering race and ethnicity with your analysis. If you need assistance with that, I'd be happy to assist you in finding those maps and working with Eric Benson to include that data analysis with your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Troy Cowan. Mr. Cowan, if you would please approach the microphone in the center of the room, please remember to state your name and address before beginning your remarks.
Apologies for taking the long way around here. My name's Troy Cowan, 21411 South Essex in Lexington Park, the only walkable community in St. Mary's County. I'm here tonight largely to apologize. I was one of the angry mob last time. I want to apologize that while my comments were accurate and expressive, they weren't actionable, and that's important in these kinds of meetings. So I hope to correct that this evening. Chairman Johnson.
Yes.
Sir, I want to apologize to you for critiquing your note-taking, because I realize now how important that is, and I hope it helps you resolve the issues that have been raised, and that they result in takeaways that can be incorporated into the board's final product.
Okay.
Dr. Richardson and Mr. Thompson, I want to acknowledge the good contributions to the dialogue that you two made during the October working sessions that have not been recognized. They're very important. You both raised valid issues which have yet to be addressed. And I would hope that they're raised again, even possibly to the extent that they form a minority report that gets forwarded with the final recommendation. Mr. Bergen, I want to affirm your extensive thought products and the time that you've invested in this process. They are extensive and they will form the basis for many of my comments, but hopefully they'll give us a common basis for dialogue. My apologies for not saying that sooner. Eric, thank you for your valued contributions here, sir. It wouldn't be possible without your IT expertise. And I'm blowing my time. Last time I said, when I spoke here, that the proposed product wasn't credible, that was a gut reaction. After reviewing the records of the October working sessions, I now know why. Here's my rationale. The decision was made in October to use current data only, not future growth speculations, yet several references to future speculations appear in the working session. Future population changes between District 3 and 4 out as far as 20 years. That sounds like the future to me. getting to a 0-degree delta in order to preclude future district changes? Sounds like future considerations to me. Further, the zero differences goal has led to a breakup of census-recognized CDP areas, Lexington Park in California, while areas not officially recognized have been kept whole: Wildwood, Chestnut Hills, Chestnut Ridge. Why? No rationale has been given. It was shared that to take a community and draw a line around it is a very scary thing. I agree wholeheartedly. So why was it done for Wildwood, Chestnut Hills, and Chestnut Ridge, and not for Lexington Park or Great Mills? Was it because of value? Was the store brand of peanut butter different from the high price spread? I don't know. There was a verbally stated goal to focus only on where people live, but not on associated demographics or cultures. Tell me, how do you do that? I'm thinking of places extreme like Harlem, Little Italy, Chinatown. Can you dissociate the people from the culture? Same thing goes here. The question was asked, what's the impact and to what extent of such changes on individuals? Well, let's talk about that. We're talking about total population to include voters under 18. I'm sure that was a misstatement, but it was there. A consequence of this total population aspect is it dilutes the votes of registered voters with kids. An example, a single parent with 3 kids counts as 4 on the census count, but just gets 1 vote. A retired couple is 2 with 2 votes. 2 beats 1 in the vote. So what we're doing by splitting up areas with the highest density of those under 18, that is Great Mills and Lexington Park, we're smearing the voices of the families with kids, and we're discounting them, disenfranchising them, smearing them over. The map has been pitched as a 90% solution, subject to tweaks based on public input. After the first 4 public sessions with 3+ hours of comments, I haven't seen any revisions proposed. How are we going to do that? Would like to know. As far as actionable input, I would suggest you refer back to comments made by
Mr.
Dr.
Cowan,
Wallflower.
my apologies, but you are at 6 minutes. If you could wrap the remarks very quickly.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I would then rapidly conclude, why are we sacrificing the communities? Let deeds, not words, be your adorning.
Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Sarah Gravel. Ms. Gravel, if you could please approach the microphone at the center of the room, state your name and address before beginning your remarks.
Hi, my name's Sarah Gravel, and I live at 44485 One Ash Lane.
Excuse me, we'll give her, how do you spell her last name?
Oh, Gravel, Grav as in Victor, Elle.
Yeah, pretty good, okay. She's got her 3 minutes.
Okay. So first, I would like to say that I appreciate the time and work that went into creating the map. We know that it's a lot of time involved in that, and that each board member that comes here, just like anything in life, you bring your own unique set of experiences and perspective to the table when you're taking on a task of this multitude, which is why noting the political party, the gender, the racial makeup of the party is so important to say, because you're going to bring that specific set of experiences that goes along with those demographic markers. So that is a short-sightedness, in my opinion, on our county commissioners for not having a diverse board here. That's not a character flaw on any one individual. It's just that you can't say, I know firsthand what it's like to be a person of color in a minority community, and what those perspectives would bring to the table. And doing a map like this, I think, would be invaluable. But since that's not the case, it then becomes your responsibility to be empathetic enough and to take that responsibility on your shoulders to think about what do those people, what would their perspectives be? And then when they do bring you the perspectives and concerns, to please listen to it. Because you can't speak to that on a personal level. And so what I've heard from the past meetings is that our communities of color, our Lexington Park, Great Mills area, where we have the highest concentration of minority population, they don't want to be split apart. And I did hear you say, Mr. Johnson, earlier that you didn't take race into account when building the map. And maybe at the time that seemed like the right thing to do, but now that you have this information, I plead that you go back and you take a look and you say, you know what, that is a community that we need to consider, and not just what specific neighborhood happens to cross the street, but a community of people that are going to have some common interests. That doesn't mean every person of color, every African American, any person of, Latino descent is going to have the same exact concerns, but it is clear that there is going to be a unique perspective and specific concerns to that community that they deserve to have heard. And so I ask that you go back to revisit that and to know that, as was said before, we don't want to assume the worst of a decision. But if you don't speak to it, it leaves the door open for people to say, is there racism involved in this? Is there classism involved in this? Why is this specific community targeted to be broken apart? And other communities where the demographic is different have been left together. And I know I've heard you say in the before the public forums and the redistricting boards that your goal was to keep communities with a common interest together. And you said it looks like as we're going through the map, when the concerns from Mr. Thompson and Dr. Richardson were brought together, there was a consensus and a discussion about, are the communities with common interests being kept together? Well, here's a red flag right here that you see that there's a need to be addressed, and I would just implore you to go back, to look at that, to readdress it, to keep those communities together, and also to speak to that. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Anne Marie Abel. Mrs. Abel, if you could please approach the microphone at the center of the room. Please remember to state your name and address before beginning your remarks.
Good evening. Thank you. Thank you. My name is Anne Marie Abel, A-B-E-L-L. I live at 22869 Town Neck Road, Leonardtown. You heard from me the other night, so you know that I am opposed to the proposed redistricting map. In its current proposed state, it fails to serve the people of St. Mary's County and its communities. And you've heard this over and over and over and over again. It also fails to serve our country's values of democracy. Remember, we the people. So I want to know, and some of the previous speakers have asked, really, what are your next steps? How transparent will the redistricting board be in laying out those next steps for all to see? I think before you even make one change to the proposed map, we should know how you plan to digest and incorporate all the feedback from all the public hearings that have been held. You might want to watch them over and over again as well, as much as we've watched your meetings over and over again and taken notes. So what is the plan? We should know, and you should tell us. And I think it should be your first order of business at your next meeting. Lastly, I'd like to say the following. This is about people more than it ever could be about just the numbers. This is about the community and the strength, or it's about community, not the community, but it's about community and the strength in our diversity and uplifting our neighbors so we all have a voice for who represents us and how we are governed. This is about remembering our state's and county's legacy of tolerance and living up to and beyond our country's democratic values, values of fairness, justice, equity, freedom, and unity. The proposed redistricting map fails miserably to be about all the people of St. Mary's County. We should have a fair map. It should serve the people of St. Mary's County and their communities, and her communities, these long-lasting and standing communities. It will require courage to make it serve the county and her people. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now begin accepting comments through our teleconferencing system. Ms. Gleisner, do we have any callers?
John, let me check with the call center.
Call center.
Hi, Angela. It's Diane Gleisner. I'm just checking to see if anyone's on the call center line.
No, we have no one on the line.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other present tonight who wish to give remarks to the redistricting board before this public hearing closes? Mr. Chairman, seeing none, I believe that concludes. Before gaveling out the meeting, though, there is a housekeeping matter that I just want to bring to the board's attention since all 5 of you are present tonight. As you well know, we have 2 working meetings scheduled on November 30th and on December 7th. And then on the 14th, this redistricting plan, whatever final plan the board arrives at, is slated to be presented to the county commissioners.
On the 14th.
On the 14th, and becomes final 60 days after that. It's my hope, and what I'd like to express to you as an objective going into the meeting on November 30th, is to come out of that meeting with as close to a final plan as possible, only because that will give county staff time to write up that plan, prepare it, and so that you can have a final document on board docs 2 days after the November 30th meeting, in time for it to get on the agenda on the 7th, and for time to solicit any public comment by email, letter, however they might wish to send in comments, so that we can basically take that meeting on the 7th to tailor the draft.
So I can watch the video and listen to what you said, but could you also send all the board members what you just said? So just remind us.
We can do that. I can write up a memorandum and we can disseminate that tomorrow morning when I get in.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, could I just also mention that both of those meetings are, again, open meetings. They'll be held in this room.
Correct.
And televised.
Okay. Anyone else want to talk?
I just want to remind the commission that Thursday and Friday are county holidays. So if there's any extra data or information that you would like placed in the maps for the meeting next Tuesday, if you could let me know as soon.
This week, Thursday, for the Thanksgiving.
Okay. Friday is also a county holiday.
Right. I'm off.
So I only have three working days between now and your Tuesday evening meeting to apply any extra data analysis changes, et cetera. So if you could think about that and let me know as quickly as possible so that I can have those prepared for you next Tuesday.
Today's Tuesday. You would need it by tomorrow?
That gives extra time, but certainly if you could think and send me an email before business on Monday, so that I can have Monday and Tuesday at the very least to work on anything.
They don't make you work on the weekends, right?
No.
One quick question. So on the 30th, goes without saying we've got some work to do. So is there any restriction on how much time we're allotted to be in this room as we make all righty.
Believe it's the opening of business the next morning.
Outstanding. Okay. Bring your blankets and pillows.
And Mr. Chairman, I would remind that for anything to go on board docs for the public to be aware of before that November 30th meeting, anything to be published on board docs does have to be in by the end of tomorrow.
I just talked to you, and you she had a good list, so so far I'm happy what's going to be on there. So I think it'll serve the purpose for the Monday, well, the 30th. So we're good. All right, is that all the...
Those were the only housekeeping matters I had to bring to
Housekeeping
your
is
attention.
done, very good. So again, anyone else need to voice questions, concerns, want to talk or not? Once, going once, twice?
Is it possible to delay the decision or the final draft on December
No.
14th?
No.
No, it is not. Unfortunately, the time constraints we're up against is that, among other things, we have an election year coming up in the next year, and the very final filing deadline for candidates for all local and state offices is February 22nd. This redistricting board plan becomes final only 60 days after approval, or after it is submitted to the county commissioners for their consideration. So the timing we are up against right now, it is not possible to delay.
Okay, all adieu. Meeting adjourned.